emotional to be back here and speaking to the parish that I grew up in. It's very beautiful to see everyone here tonight, and I feel very honored, very humbled and blessed to be invited to this incredible speaker series, Faith and Real Life. Like, what an incredible name. I mean, it doesn't get more real than smashing dessert plates and I mean, isn't that the stuff of life? Like, how real is this kind of a thing? And that's kind of like a really funny and ironic opening to the night, because that's what life is. It's raw, it's gritty, it's uncomfortable, but like it's beautiful, and it's a beautiful adventure that walking with God really is. And everyone has a different journey, and that's just kind of like what I just have collected from the title of this speaker series, and kind of the theme that I would love to carry throughout the night is just that, like, God walks with us in the messy, raw, gritty decisions and mountains and valleys that all of us are confronted with, and that's hopefully what I can convey here tonight in the topic that we're discussing tonight. Can I see one of those? I just want to make sure this title is right, of what I'm talking on the right topic. Faith and culture, how to live a life of purity. So before I dive in, I want to just give a little background to who I am. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Deutsch. Those are my parents, Dr. Fred and Kathleen Deutsch, and they're the sponsor of the evening. That's so great. How appropriate. I went to Immaculate Conception School. Some of my classmates are here, which is just awesome. I graduated from Watertown High School in 2007, went to school out in Ohio at a small school called Franciscan University of Steubenville, and got a kind of a liberal arts degree there. And once I graduated in 2011, I moved out to the Philadelphia area, which is where I've been for the last 6 years. And when I moved out to the Philadelphia area, I knew that I wanted to kind of get involved in pro-life work. And so I started working for an organization called Generation Life, and was there for a couple of years. And then 2.5, almost 3 years ago, joined a newly forming organization called the Culture Project. And the Culture Project is an absolutely incredible initiative. It's a nonprofit that has created a mission program which invites young adults, mostly recent college graduates, to come and join and give a year of their life as a missionary. So we have a mission program that forms these young adults, sends them through this intense, 2.5-month boot camp, which is just spiritual and intellectual formation, and then they're sent out on teams, and they are speaking throughout the country at different dioceses where they're invited by the bishops, speaking to young people about the specific lifestyle and virtue of sexual integrity, and helping empower young people to embrace a life of virtue, and understanding that true happiness and true joy is found in a life of virtue. So with that being said, the Culture Project is still small, only 2.5 years old. We're a little baby, but we're making a huge splash and a huge impact, and I'm so proud of the work we do. I had a quick slide, Missy, just a picture of us, but it doesn't really matter. It's just some faces. And so that's just kind of an introduction to the Culture Project. And the reason why the Culture Project is called the Culture Project, and why it kind of fits that tonight I'm giving a talk on faith and culture and how to live a life of purity in our culture, is that the name, the Culture Project, comes from an understanding of culture, that a culture is formed on a set of ideas or beliefs or values that that set of people hold to be true. So what gets you out of bed in the morning? What makes you make your bed? What drives you to do what you do? To have the lifestyle you live, to make the decisions you live? That shapes and forges an entire culture. You can slice out a piece of history and look at its art, its literature, its music, its structures, its political, its laws, all of its moral norms. Everything is based upon an idea that people hold to be true. And what this group of people are doing is traveling across the country and challenging the core idea of our society of what it means to be a human person, especially in regard to their sexuality. Because frankly, this group of people, including myself and maybe many of you in this room, have tried our culture and found it wanting, have been failed by the lies of our culture, and are a little bit upset about it. And we exist to promote a true understanding of what it means to be a person fully alive, because we think, frankly, we deserve it. And that's why the Culture Project exists, is to promote and empower young people to embrace a life of chastity, to understand human dignity, and to help promote the idea that it's actually possible. So with that being said, a little introduction. I have a video for us to start off the talk.
Who are you? Not what's your name or what you're good at, but who are you? You, this amazing, complicated, beautiful human being. You, capable of thinking, feeling, laughing, crying, building, playing, giving, loving. You. Have you ever thought about why you are here? Why amongst millions of galaxies there are 7 billion of us on this tiny planet? All trying to find ways to make ourselves happy, peaceful, content as we move through each new day. The truth is, you, me, all of us are here for a reason. Your inherent beauty, your unique unrepeatability is not an accident, but a gift. It's all part of an epic plan. Never before and never again will there be another you. Open your heart and discover who you are.
I didn't make it, but thank you. Actually, that was made by our friends at Ascension Press. If you haven't checked out Ascension Press, they have incredible videos, and this is a promo video for their Theology of the Body study. But we have permission to use it because they're awesome. The reason I love this video is it helps us kind of zoom out and kind of take a global look on the world and ourselves and where we fit kind of in the cosmos, not to be lost in the, millions, billions of people in the cosmos, but to really accentuate the important place we have in the world, me individually, you individually, who you are as a person that was a thought in the mind of God from all of eternity. You exist, you are not accidental, you have a purpose, and now your objective is to find that purpose and to live it. I think that this video kind of hopefully starts to instigate some of the more existential questions of, why am I here? Where did I come from? Where am I going? For most of us, at some part of our lives, we've all kind of experienced the valleys, and we've kind of just skimmed through life superficially without ever asking why. And if anything, tonight I would encourage you to start asking the question, why? And every single one of us, as a human person, exists with this big, gaping question in the depths of our heart. And I would be so bold as to say that if we don't go through life having found the answer, it will be a great tragedy. And I think that this is the church's plea, that we would all grasp and hold on to the vocation that exists for each and every one of us, and that is to be a saint. It is a huge tragedy if we go through life without ever having asked ourselves, why do I exist? And the reason we exist is for love. We were created by the Creator, who is love himself, and we're going to the Father, who is love himself. And there's even a step further that I would be so bold as to say we're created for love, is because each of us are men or women. We're female or we're male. And in that deep identity is a unique drive for love, for affection, for meaning. So if I were to ask any of you, and I'm going to pick on these 8th grade girls here because Maddie gave me permission to, what the deepest desire of the human heart is, what would you say? Or what's your deepest desire right now in life? Do you have a car? Do you want a car? Do you think that's your deepest desire? Oh, okay. Is there something you want more than a car? Does anyone else want to volunteer what they think the deepest desire of the human heart is? Yes, my friend in the back. Heaven? Did someone prep him for this? Wow, straight to the point, cut the chase. Right, absolutely. But, I mean, we can say that because that's what our CCD teachers taught us, but until we know it deep in the depths of our heart, that's what should drive us and get us out of bed in the morning and help us make our decisions in the deepest and darkest moments. And wrapped up in this desire for heaven is just this very natural human desire for happiness and for love. I think the people who have never experienced love will have lived, a life half lived. It's a tragedy. We are most human and we are most alive when we are loved. And so tonight's topic is really a question of love and authentic love. And what the heck does purity have to do with love? So I start this talk kind of framing it in this situation because to be in heaven and to be a saint requires, first of all, God. Second of all, our cooperation. And God gives us tools like the sacraments and teachings on the virtues, and chastity or purity is one of the tools in the toolbox that's going to get us to heaven, because it is the orientation, it is the direction by which we direct our love and our passion and our desire. The funny thing is, most people think that the Catholic Church hates sex. I don't know where that came from, but I thought that too growing up. That's not true. In fact, the Catholic Church loves sex. God created sex. I don't know who thinks that like Britney Spears did, but God did. And with that being said, the world has got it all wrong. The church promotes the most beautiful, the most rich, the most deep understanding of a man and a woman's love for one another. And all the church is doing is trying to protect it and protect her children from going down the path that many of us have probably gone down and been hurt by, including myself. So what is purity? What is chastity? The church gives a really beautiful definition I just pulled from the Catechism, 2339, if anyone is taking notes. Chastity includes an apprenticeship in self-mastery, which is a training in human freedom. The alternative is clear. Either man governs his passions and finds peace, or he lets himself be dominated by them and becomes unhappy. So we're speaking strictly here of man's happiness, man or woman's happiness. Do you want to be happy? Yes. Man finds happiness and freedom in virtue. So there were these people a long time ago categorized as the Greeks. This was before Jesus Christ. And the philosophers in this category of the Greeks, like Aristotle, would often refer in his writings to this concept, eudaimonia, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, probably Father could correct me. This is a concept of human flourishing. And all of the Greeks, even before Jesus came, all of the Greeks discussed this concept. What would provide human flourishing? Like, what will make man his happiest? And they came up with this concept that virtue would. Because virtue is what makes man fully man. Vice makes him less man, more like a beast. Like the more that he is vice, he's vicious. It's like vice dehumanizes you. Virtue humanizes you. And so the concept behind the Culture Project is that if we're going to want to restore our culture, it begins on a very individual level, you and me, striving to be fully human via virtue. So chastity is a virtue that humanizes you. And if you've been down the wrong path, you know that non-chastity or unchastity or a struggle to be in control of one's sexual desires is sometimes a little bit dehumanizing. Now, let me be clear. The human desire for love, for sex, that's not the problem. In fact, God gave that to you as a man or as a woman. The problem is what we do with it. So chastity helps us orient our desires in the correct way to what is true, to what is good, to what is beautiful. So chastity is kind of a safeguard, a guardian to true love, to help us weave out all of the counterfeit loves that are thrown at us in the world. Has anyone seen anyone famous in their life? Who'd you see? Did he have bodyguards? Were there bodyguards? No. Anyone been to a concert and there were bodyguards? If you can envision someone famous walking down the street, they have bodyguards. Or the Pope, he came to America and he has all of these bodyguards. Or, you go to, if anyone's ever been to St. Peter's in Rome, there's all these Swiss guards. So I'm just trying to give you a visual of guards. So chastity is a guard, a guardian that's going to get you to the place you want to be safely. And same with all of the understandings and the teachings of the church. Like, the church does not exist to suppress you. Chastity is not a form of suppression. And if it is, if you think it is, then you're going to have real problems. Because chastity is a freedom to be male and female and to love accordingly. So another example, let's see, I need my phone. Can I have that back? My phone is really broken. So I wanted to show you this. Everything has a design. Everything has a duty. And everything has an order. So the other day I decided to use my phone as, I didn't have a hammer, but I was trying to hang something on the wall. So I found out the hard way that I shouldn't have. So all of my glass is busted, and now I'm trying to get a new phone. Thanks, Mom. She's trying to help me. If I use my phone against what it was designed to do, which is make phone calls, send text messages, and maybe listen to music and go on Instagram, then, my phone's going to function properly. If I use my phone against its design, some bad things are going to happen and it's going to malfunction. That is the story of my life and maybe some of the stories of your lives. If we don't honor the design that God has placed inside of our hearts for authentic and true love, because maybe we've been swept away by the lies of the world. Maybe we've been convinced by our boyfriends. Maybe we just were hopeless and felt like no one else existed for us. All too many people have had broken hearts and broken lives. And the beautiful news is that Christ has come to restore man and to restore his heart. Over and over and over and over again. Chastity is an ordering of your heart and your desires to what is good and true. If you're currently in a relationship, I'm speaking to all of our young people here who are single, and dating, not married, and the primary focus of your relationship is purely physical. If that is you in the crowd, I ask you, try taking it out for 2 weeks. Actually, take it out forever, but just test for the next 2 weeks and tell me, does your relationship stand? Do you know your boyfriend or girlfriend? Is it strong? Do you know each other? Do you know their favorite books, their favorite movies? What gets them out of bed in the morning? What excites them? Why they like pepperoni instead of cheese pizza? If you don't have a rightly ordered relationship, you will know it. But the good news is they exist in the world. And frankly, it's hard to come by. But your happiness and your joy exists where chastity is at the center of your relationship. And guess what? Chastity doesn't end when you get married. For all of the married people out here. What is chastity? Chastity is living in accord with your design in your state in life. If you're single, be faithful to your singleness. Give your heart to God. If you're engaged, still, you're not married. Give your heart to God and trust in Him, and He will be faithful to you. If you're married, you're faithful to your spouse. And in times of temptation, no matter what your walk of life is, God is by your side. So there's this distinction between love and its counterfeit, lust. Now, lust sometimes disguises itself. I had a story, but I forgot it. Lust, in its definition, is taking from someone what ought to be given. So, for instance, a really strong example of this is pornography. This is this is not an okay thing. Pornography essentially makes men and women into objects for someone's pleasure. And this is a really big example of the throwaway culture that that the Culture Project and the church at large exists to really abolish, because it is such a tragedy. Any time that a person is treated as an object, any time that you subjugate a person's dignity to your pleasure, is a real problem, and it's a real tragedy. Because why? Because you're missing out on the love, you're missing out on the person, you're missing out on the rich exchange of a real human person. And this exists in many forms. Lust is a really nasty counterfeit of love. And God desires our happiness. God desires us to be truly happy and truly free. And if any of you in this room are struggling with any form of sexual sin, I urge you to have hope in God. He will not abandon you. God does not exist to abandon his children, but to save them. And I'll get into some more practicals very soon as to what we can do to fight some of the struggles and the temptations and the lies that are bombarded by our culture. Do I have any athletes in this room? All right, a very eager guy right here. What's your sport of choice? Football. What position do you play? What is it? Receiver? Nice. When was your last game? Long time ago. Did you win? Oh. Did you ever win a game? Did it feel good? Yeah. And did it take sacrifice? Did you work really hard? Yeah, you worked really hard with your team. I like to think of virtue as a spiritual Olympic sport. It takes discipline, it takes hard work, it takes resistance, and it takes a lot of effort. Chastity is not for the faint of heart. Chastity is for those who are willing to fall, lose a game, get back up again, and play another kick-butt game of football. Do I have any other athletes in here? What's your sport? You in the green. Basketball. Tell me about the last time you won your basketball game.
You scored more points than the other team.
Oh my God. You scored more points. What was your practice regimen like? Like, how often do you practice?
2 times a week.
2 times a week? Was it hard work? Kind of, or you breezed right through it? It was pretty cool. Any musicians? Did you play at Mass? It was beautiful. What's your name? Paul. Paul, how long have you been playing the piano?
6 years.
6 years. 6 years ago, could you sit down and play what you played today at Mass?
No.
No. Could you play anything?
No.
Wow. The virtue of chastity is like a sport, or like taking up an instrument. To become a master, to be able to play the most eloquent piano song in the world, like Paul did today at Mass. Like Mozart didn't wake up one day and play. At least I don't think he did. You, in order to be free, in order to play whatever song you want on the piano, you first have to do scales upon scales upon scales. I quit piano lessons in like 4th grade. My mom's still sad about it. Scales upon rehearsals upon rehearsals. In order to be able to score at your football game, at your basketball game, at your piano recital, in order to be free and be amazing, just like that. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of practice. So if you follow me here, the point is this. In order to be strong, it's going to take a lot of hard work, and it's going to take a lot of accountability and a lot of people by your side. So why is it so important? Why is it so important to practice chastity? What even is chastity? Chastity, for you single people, including myself, is saving all sexually intimate acts for marriage. What? What? Yes. Why? Why does it even matter? What if I love him? What if I'm engaged to be married to him? What if I know I'm going to spend the rest of my life with him? The reason that sex belongs inside of marriage and not outside of it is because there's two really beautiful but important, essential aspects and purposes of sex. And I like to simplify them as babies and bonding. Now, the world would like to get rid of both of those things. We have all sorts of reasons all sorts of reasons why the world would like to do away with the babies. That is the result of sex. And bonding, like the hookup culture is crazy, and like people compete on college campuses to see who can hook up with who with least amount of emotional attachment. Like, it's crazy. But those are actually two extremely beautiful results of when man and woman come together. And when a man and a woman are sexually intimate, there's actually like a biological bond. I don't know if any of you are aware of that. But your body is actually created. God actually did design your body to form bonds and actual biological bonds with the person that you're sexually intimate with. The doctors or scientists look in a textbook, call one hormone that's released when you're sexually intimate, they call it oxytocin. How many of you have heard of oxytocin? Okay. So it's called the human superglue, because when you are affectionate with someone, and even more so at released in the highest amount, it floods your brain during sex, so that you are connected to this person. This is why married people, their vows are strengthened. Their vows to fidelity and to exclusivity and their commitment, their marital vows are strengthened by being sexually intimate. When you're not married, you're actually lying with your body. And I don't care if you try to convince yourself that it's meaningless sex or that it's just a casual hookup. I don't care if you try to. Like, I could try and jump off a cliff and tell myself I could fly, but like, you're designed in a certain way and you can't defy it even if you wanted to. And so there is an actual chemical bond that's released. And that's why when people go through really bad breakups and they were, sexually active, why it actually feels like a divorce, because you were actually acting and living like you were married. So there's all sorts of reasons why that intimacy God created to bond you to someone exclusively forever. And to break that, it's going to be difficult. Now, with that being said, I just want to talk for a second about the mercy of God. I think that all too often, this is interesting. All too often, hang with me here. This guy's jumping around. Wants me to start singing. All too often, I think we're really hard on ourselves. We don't believe that, we don't believe there's a God. We don't believe that he believes in us. We believe he's really distant and foreign, and what the heck does he have to do with my life and with my happiness? The truth is God wants nothing more than your joy, your freedom, and your happiness. And it's a sad life if you live without him. There have been moments in my life where I have been convinced I could do it by myself, even in regard to chastity. Convinced I didn't need God, I don't need Him, His grace. There's this story that I haven't told in a long time, but a couple years ago I went on a bike ride with my dad, and it was like a week long. I didn't train for it, and that was a huge mistake. It was like 60 to 80 miles a day, and I was like in so much pain. I like want to cry thinking about it right now. Anyway, the very last day, it was not only were my muscles destroyed and shredded probably, the weather was really bad. It was like raining and sleeting and windy and like really cold, and the precipitation was like freezing, so it was really dangerous for all the cyclists. And my dad was like, "This is a bad idea. We don't need to do this like final ride." And he like a quarter of the way through told me like we shouldn't do this, and I was like, I'm gonna push through. And like I tried to do it all by myself, and I finally got to the top. And meanwhile, every single rider was getting off the road. There were these like sag wagons that were like these vans that were like picking up riders and putting their bikes on top and were like taking them to the end. And I'm like trying to prove something to someone like myself. And at the top, I got to the top, and on my way down, I lost a glove. It was like 50-mile-an-hour like wind and rain against my face. My like sweat was like freezing, and then I got a flat tire. So I'm like standing out in the middle of wilderness, and I'm like crying. And it was like a really and there was like all these like vans going by, but they were full. They couldn't take me. I was like, please help me, please. And the like you could tell the vans were full because the top was like full of like 12 bikes. And long story short, the lesson I learned: don't go through life alone. And train. I tell that story because God, you might feel that God has forgotten you. You might feel like you can do this alone. Well, I mean, good luck, and let me know how it goes. We need Him, and He wants us. The first thing I would say to living a life of chastity is getting the right frame of mind. Understand who you are and understand who God is. I love this quote by St. Leo. He was a pope a long time ago. This is read often in the church. He says, "Christian, remember your dignity. And now that you share in God's own nature, do not return to sin by your former condition. Bear in mind who is your head and of whose body you are a member." He means Christ's. "Do not forget that you have been rescued from the power of darkness and brought into the light of God's kingdom." Christian, remember your dignity. If you are sitting in this room and you have been baptized, you have an unfathomable dignity that belongs to the kingdom of heaven. And He exists to renew and restore you every single day of your life by the sacraments, by His grace, by the sacrament of confession when you fall. Remember your dignity and to whom you belong. I skipped a couple slides, but if you can skip to like 1 or 2 further. I had some quotes. This is good. The Culture Project, you should follow us on Facebook because we've got all these great like memes and quotes and things, and it's just like a nice spark of inspiration when you're on Instagram or on Snapchat. We're like really crazy about the social media. This is one of ours. "The struggle is the sign of holiness. A saint is a sinner that keeps trying." If you're struggling, good. That's a good sign. If you're not struggling, that's probably a bad sign. Well, in a respective sense. Some pointers, some tips. First things first. This is for our single young people here. If any of you struggle with sexual sin, bring it to the light. Talk to a priest. If you have an older mentor, talk to them about it. Because mold grows in darkness, but it dies in the light. The truth is purity is an actual spiritual battle. So the more you pray, and the more you run to confession, and the more that you cling to the sacraments, the more that Satan loses his grip in your life. And also, there's also this psychological and biological thing that happens when you practice a habit, is the more you practice a vice, you're creating neurological pathways for that vice. It becomes harder and harder to break. There's all sorts of a discussion about your moral culpability and things, but the basic point is this: the more you practice a virtue, the more you're creating neurological pathways and making it biologically easier to be a virtuous person. God will sanctify the nature that He has given you. You are made for holiness. You are made to be a saint. Second of all, if you're dating someone, agree on your boundaries. If they don't want boundaries, then you need to get out. Boundaries are not rules of suppression. Boundaries are meant to steer you on the path to true love. Boundaries such as, hey, I don't think we should watch movies in the dark while no one's home anymore. Oh man, no, I'm serious. Like, I don't know if any of us would succeed in that situation. Like, we're all human. We are made for love. So don't set yourself up for temptation. Boundaries mean, for instance, me and my fiance. He would laugh if I shared this tonight. It's probably should leave your house by 10 o'clock at night. I live a half an hour away, and past then I'm a grump, and I don't want to do anything, and nothing good is going to happen. As basic as that sounds, I can't tell you how good it is to feel like the person you love is on the same page as you. And if the person you love is not on the same page with you, again, not worth it. Get rid of the junk in your life. You know what the junk is. It might be movies on your computer. It might be music that defames women. It might even be some bad friends. For the guys, if you exist at a school where there's lots of locker talk and all your guy friends are making crude jokes about a girl, you have a decision to stand up and be a bigger man, because I'm tired of boys and I'm ready for our culture to see some men, and you have the power to rise up and to defend the dignity of women. That's your power, and that's your vocation, and that's what God is calling you young men to do. Girls, dress to reveal your dignity. You are more than your body, and the way that you dress is going to reveal the kind of person you are. Who do you want to be? How do you want the world to see you? If I walked into this room and I was dressed in a firefighting outfit, you would probably assume, well, I was crazy, but that was a firefighter. The way you dress reveals who you are. And frankly, if you believe in the depths of who you are and your dignity and your worth, you're going to dress in a way that says, hey, I have a brain, I have thoughts, I'm gifted, I'm talented, I'm driven, I'm going to be a big deal in this world. Dress to reveal the depths, your dignity. If there's anything in your closet that you think is a little bit on the border and your mom's like, throw it out, don't take it as a sign of oh my gosh, all I have is frumpy, ugly things. Modesty is not to be frumpy. Modesty is to be beautiful and to reveal your beauty. Another big deal, sexting is not a good thing. If any of you have ever known a friend or personally been asked to send a picture of yourself, I'm telling you now, it is so disastrous. So disastrous. You don't know where that photo is going to end up. You don't know who's going to see it. Just absolutely, I can't tell you how many broken hearts are the result of sexting. Last but not least, I just want to talk about, the dangers of pornography. Really, really dangerous because it does start to dabble in the science and the biological studies that have been done on people who are addicted to pornography it's really unfortunate. And the brain scans look exactly like a brain scan of someone who is addicted to a hard drug, because you're releasing dopamine and there's all sorts of neurological chemicals going on, and to break it is possible. It's just difficult, and I can't tell you how many couples and marriages are really hurt. Like, no one wants to be, like, you ask anyone who struggles with an addiction, no one wants it. In the end, we all make choices upon happiness. And so all of these things, if any of this strikes a chord or any of this is a difficulty for you, do not lose hope. God exists to liberate and free his children. And there are resources that exist. I don't know if I listed them. No, but I'll go. Actually, do you want to go back to this last slide? I'll bring this up in a second. There are resources that you could go to a Restore Culture website. It's called restoreculture.com, which is the Culture Project's website. I have materials in the back with all sorts of resources. Fight the New Drug is good friends of ours. They exist as a resource for people who are trying to break free of pornography. There's thechastity.com has amazing videos and resources just to learn more. I encourage you to learn more, to equip yourself, because if we're receiving thousands of messages every week from your Instagram, from your TV, from your nice little girl Cosmo magazine, or whatever it is that we're constantly flipping through, we've got to equip ourselves with a counter message. This is a quote that has been an inspiration for me personally. The Culture Project draws a lot of its just spiritual sustenance from the writings and the prayers of the late Holy Father John Paul II, now saint. He was such a man. He really knew how to live life fully. He climbed mountains with his buddies. He was a poet and a playwright. When like World War II and the craziness of Poland, he was underground promoting a beautiful understanding of the human person against all communist odds. He just was such a fantastic man. And above all, he counseled young couples, young dating and married couples. And people are like, who is he? Like, he's not even married, he's a celibate, what would he know? But from all of his interaction with young people, he just had such a profound sense of what human love is in its essence, and that is pure self-gift. It is the elimination of your ego. It is the elimination of what I want in my selfishness. Pure love is all gift, willing the good of the person you love, eliminating every selfish aspect. And that is like a lifetime of work. I don't know if we'll ever really perfectly get there, but we certainly can make strides. He said this: we are not the sum of our weaknesses and failures. We are the sum of the Father's love for us. When you go to pray and the voice inside your head says, you're just a mess up, there is no hope for you. You cast that lie to the pit of hell, because the way the Father sees you is nothing but his love. You are not the sum of your failures. You are not the sum of your fears. You are not the sum of anything that's happened to you in the past. The way God sees you is your identity as his beloved child who he loves and continues to love into existence. If he stopped loving you for 1 second, you'd cease to exist. Your existence is his breath and his love. With that being said, I encourage everyone to visit our website, and you can follow us, everyone, on Instagram, on Snapchat, like I said, on Twitter. We would love to stay in touch with you at the Culture Project. We're praying for you. If you have any questions, if something you said you want to talk to me personally after this, come. I have heard every single question on the book. Do not fear. If you are interested in supporting the Culture Project, we need all of the love and support we can get, whether that's spiritually, financially. We need all of you. And with that being said, I'll close it down in a prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. All glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.